So this is going to be talking about dysfunctional control, distorted psychology. Especially, I'm going to share my perspective from the point of view of what it's like to be codependent, and then figure out how that works and how that plays. And I'm making this video because I woke up a bit agitated this morning in recognizing where I hadn't spoken my truth and how I hadn't spoken my truth, and within relationships, and why. And it's also that there was a time when I would feel like I should wait until I'm in a safe, in a more grounded space to share with you. But I'm just trying to share my journey along with you as a human, and decided that this is part of the discombobulation that comes along with the craziness of emotions and being a human. And so I wanted to share this little adventure. So yesterday I woke to wanting for this desire, which just kind of popped out of nowhere, to set a boundary with my ex-partner that I've been talking about, the whole dynamic. And I wanted to set up a new, very clear boundary, and I wanted to share why I did that, what the reasoning was, and making sure all the logic fits together, because I feel if it's true, then the logic should all come together. So I have, from processing this past relationship in a more grieving way, in a more allowing myself to be angry at myself and angry at the other person for things that happened in the relationship. And what it caught for me was me bypassing, through spirit work, my soul work. And having that grief has allowed this amazing new experience, which is loving kindness. And so how that's been showing up is, going through the breakup. It's kerfluffly, it's emotional, and it's, discombobulating. And the thing is that I still had this wishing to stay connected to this person. And as I started to watch this predictable behavior that I began to really observe probably the last 6 months of the relationship, was this disposition that she would hold when she was at the boundary of whatever narrative was going on in her head that she wasn't sharing with me. And how that would look would be, we would either be in conversations about our relationship, or in a kerfluffle or something like that, and then basically going through her logic and how she's seeing everything, and I'm basically, be honest, let's be transparent with each other. But her logic would finally break down, and then we would get heated between us, because I'm like, I want to be acknowledged for how I feel about this, and she was insistent that I see the situation the way that she saw the situation. And that's just tied to her narrative that she's got going on that I'm unaware of. And then we would go into a game of Red Cup, and I would acknowledge how she feels, and then she would either just sit silent as I went, okay, now it's your turn, or she would hit one of the 3 Ds: deflect, deny, or deceive. And then you would ask, well, like, why would you continue doing this? And that's what I asked myself. This is the anger towards myself. Why would I do this? What was my payoff for allowing this behavior to happen, to be one-sided, to where one person gets their feelings acknowledged, not validated? And I don't even know if we can acknowledge I mean, validate anything in this mysterious world, but we certainly can acknowledge each other's feelings. And so I recognized, and I started to see this disposition in her and her holding it. And then I would play with it, and because it would usually contain some kind of ridiculous perspective that made no logical sense and wouldn't come together. And so that was that. The entertainment value of it was she has an incredibly sharp mind, and that's how she puts the psychology together, is with that sharp mind. And so what I recognized was, we left trying to be on good terms, but then I knew, like, this was what I started to recognize in the pattern, was this really predictable pattern, which was we would bump up against this disposition. Nothing would get clarified, and then we would just let it go, and then she would recharge, and then we could start talking again. And what was ended up happening is she would just put in new pieces of the logic into the narrative that she wasn't sharing with me, and then that's from her point of view, her healing, or her getting with herself, or whatever it was. But I figured out that it was just a predictable behavior. So when she left, I didn't expect to hear from her, which I didn't. And then basically just told me, okay, I'm moving my trailer or whatever it was, or RV. And then there would just be these little pop-ins every once in a while. But anytime that I wanted to go with anything real, it would turn into a fight. It would turn into that logical disposition. And then it was, I can't talk to you now. And because that's predictable, because she needed time to put what I brought to the table. She had to put that with the narrative that she's got going on. And so finally I was just tired of this behavior and called her out on it. And then finally was just the feeling of working in that logic just made my skin crawl to be that way. So I just stopped connecting with her altogether. And that was beautiful, because what I found in that, for me, in the codependent state of giving myself away, I did it for entertainment, just to have company around me. The feeling like I'm a bigger person because I can have patience and I can wait for this person. They're going to choose, like, having a great relationship with a great man over whatever ridiculous story they've got going on in the background. That's what I'm telling myself, why I'm giving myself away. And I'm also not honoring her either. And so what was coming was this prickliness, like, because I'm not carrying anger about this relationship into my future. The forgiveness will come through time. And what I found is it was already coming. I was dropping into the soul work, getting out of the head, trying to ascend, but rather build roots again, and starting to take responsibility where I had left off responsibility in relationships and that sort of thing. And sorting that stuff out has been quite an adventure as well. So it's very peaceful. So anytime, every once in a while, I would have a little prickliness when she would come to my mind, but I could easily paint it over with this sensation of loving kindness. That's all I can express it as. This is what I think interdependency feels like, because distorted psychology is simply a misappropriation of empathy. So if we are empathetic with ourselves and empathetic with others at the same level, empathy just becomes this place where we can bring up compassion and spread it out to the world. But when you're a codependent like me, I will put somebody over my feelings, put other people over myself and their feelings, and not in every situation. Distorted psychology is is quite crazy. But that's a big pattern of mine, especially in love relationships and friendships and that sort of thing. And so once we start getting this sorted, like, this is the interesting thing, is we don't hear the term interdependency enough, which is the state of that, and that's basically honesty is what is lacking from distorted reality, distorted psychology. And so, like, feeling really good about where I was. I integrated grief with my father. Here's another interesting part about that, was as I've shared my estrangement story with people and told them that I was grieving, I had so many people trying to coach me and saying, "Oh, as I see it, you shouldn't have to grieve. Oh my God, blah, 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 blah." And it's like, what grieving did for me. But first of all, I'm not processing grief. I'm not carrying grief. I'm not thinking about grief. I'm feeling and integrating grief. And what that did for me was found a new level of empathy, and an empathy that I didn't have for my father. And I found it. And that turned into loving kindness, the sensation of loving kindness. I would say grieving, allowing that process of grieving was the amazing result was loving kindness that I can give out to everybody. And so anyway, so hadn't heard from my ex for a long time. Then all of a sudden I get I'm perfect. Everything's going great in my life. I have found so many things and healed so many things, and everything was about her. And that was what let me know that basically she's reaching out to me with that same guarded disposition that she held in the relationship, which now that disposition is really prickly for me, and not welcome in my world. And so my response was to really not respond. My first response was to say that I'm not into reconnection any longer. I'm into reconciliation, which then I got them trying to tell me what reconciliation looked like, sending me the definition of reconciliation, blah, blah, blah. When if she truly wanted to reconcile and understand, because this was my greatest frustration with her, was not being curious about my world throughout our relationship, not being curious about what I'm feeling and what's going on in my world. And so basically I felt like, I had set the perfect boundary. This was probably a week ago. I can't remember chronological time exactly. And said, I want reconciliation. I got a couple of plugins, and then I was just like, okay, I felt like I'm good and I'm clear. And then for whatever reason, I woke up yesterday, and all of a sudden I'm like, nope, there's like a boundary that needs to be set. Because one of the things is vacillating in my world over like ghosting somebody and blocking them and all of these kind of things. And there's something beautiful in creating boundaries and not walls. And so as much as I can possibly do it, I would like to create and articulate beautiful boundaries. And boundaries have thresholds, meaning that if the boundary is respected and honored, then people can return back into my world. And so what came to me was to share my perspective, and basically what bubbled out of me was what was my need, because before, in my codependency, holding on to this codependency, I would have wanted to be like, it would have been this would have been one of my trophies. I would have been like, ooh, I'm still friends with this person. We went through all this hardship together. And, through all this great stuff and the hard stuff and whatever else, and we're still friends. But what I'm recognizing is that there wasn't any like deep soul healing. There was no, and what was left was vacant. There's nothing left. I knew what I was going to be receiving from her, which is I watched her manage her friendships along the way, and if she's putting me in her little pool of friendships, I know exactly how she manages her friends. I don't want to be a part of her little management system. And also, she comes to me with the same disposition every time, which is a guarded disposition. She will only reach out when her spirit is high, when she's got her psychology and the narrative running that she needs to make herself feel a grounded foundation. And basically, so what the offering is hey, let's talk about all the good things that happened in our relationship, not all the good things about that I wanted to talk about, which is all the real things. And so basically, her bringing that disposition was perfect because it just prickled my just nauseating there's just a nauseating feeling through my body of interacting with her mind, and especially in her mind now, where I hold very little agency within her world. And I know, and this is why I don't see us being why there's no reason for us to create a relationship, because I feel she has very little to no agency in my world, meaning that I I don't respect and can't respect, especially when she emanates from the disposition that she's coming from, and the superficiality of the relating, and just the fact that I can see that there was no. That's what I believe now, is that we can collaborate, and this is what we can do when we focus on friendship and start using relationship to heal this distorted versions of reality that we create for ourselves. And my distorted one was other. Like, I need to focus on other people. If I focus on other people, that's really going to help me. And it's like there's a practice of serving both, and it's a flow, and it's not about managing it. And that's what I don't want people to get from this, is that I'm pre-digesting my life. In fact, where I'm going is the roots of the soul, and as I'm finding, the soul is much more spontaneous, much more in the moment, more present, whereas the spirit is different. It just has to do with our vibration, like how we feel internally. And the soul is just a deeper feeling of that. It's a richer, juicier feeling of that. And so basically, I love creating a boundary that is very clear. And the boundary was, you either approach me. This is where I'm asking her to change her disposition. You either approach me open and with curiosity, or remain outside of my world entirely. So I opened the door for her to come in. And, but I know, like, the capacity, there needs to be capacity. And I know that bar is really high. But it also feels like perfect and great for me, because basically I let her know that any other approach to me will be received as being hostile. And so the boundary just felt really good, because then it gave me a clear conscience. The ghosting thing, it's like I'm leaving this space for healing and collaboration. And that's the thing that I realize, is that that is another thing that drives me bananas about not being able to connect with somebody, is having found my distorted reality and what I brought to the table, my manipulative, in order to have friendship and or basically just company and somebody to interact with, all the reasons that I outweighed myself in the process, the codependency part of me, it was all manipulative. It was, well, I should have stepped out. I should have held my ground. I should have relied and valued honesty. Both, if I'm going to be in a relationship, then both of us need to be honest with each other. And I knew she wasn't being honest with me, and yet I continued to march forward. And so it's clear to me how once you can see both sides of the control paradigm and the distorted reality, how you manipulate each other. It's like the idea of being able to sit down with somebody and go, oh yeah, you did this and I did this and you did this, and oh, look at how this goes with this and this goes with this. And why that's not available is because the other person didn't find their where they lacked responsibility or accountability to their behavior. And so whatever she's going to share with me is going to be a distorted version that only lives in her world and will have nothing, like we could not go back through the relationship together because and go over like things that had happened and whatever else, because there's things that she has ideas about that are just absurd, hooking up with another man and then saying that it was my fault and holding that perspective to be true, and the fact that it, and to hold that to be true in her world, she can't even acknowledge my feelings on it. I'm not talking about validating my feelings on it. She can't even acknowledge my feelings on it. That's why she can't play Red Cup. So anyway, to set that boundary felt so good, and knowing that I had 3 years of this behavior, and I had recognized that there were times where it felt like towards the end there that she could make a choice on being transparent, meeting me in the real world, or she could go, like there was some real weird vacillations. Like there was one time where she vacillated with, holding strong to the story she was telling herself, and then in the next moment, I want you and I want this and I want to get through this. But I always noticed, it was like whenever I saw that light start to shine in, I just sit back and I could watch, and then the wheels would start going in the head, and then it would go right back to, I'm choosing the narrative that's going on in my head. That's what's important to me. So I'm just sharing this experience with you, and again, this is my perspective, and I would love it to. The only reason I feel like it's okay for me to share it is that I can out myself on both sides of the coin. So I can share with you how my manipulation was at play, and then the other person's manipulation was at play. If it's just like me venting about about a relationship, it would probably get a lot more views, though, wouldn't it? Isn't that interesting about our world? And so what I'm finding is that this distorted reality comes down to empathy. It comes down to a war over how we should feel. Just start paying attention. I mean, advertising's doing this to us. Just about everything out there that's popular is trying to tune us to its frequency rather than us taking our frequency back. And that's why I say that we're in the point of either choosing the human experience, which is all the emotions, it's the soul, or we are going to drift off into an entertainment world. We're going to drift off into transhumanism, which will be a lack of empathy. It will all be about comfort. It will all be about emotional safety, and what will be missing is the depth. It will be missing the love. It will be missing the loving kindness. It will be missing the richness. It will be missing the elements of creating friendship and relationship. And that's what's so important to me now, is truly understanding what true friendship is and how we've gotten away from that in our culture. In, think about this is social media. They call it social media, but it's interest media. People are poking their heads into what they're interested in, and then they call out. I'm noticing, like on Threads, everybody's calling out is, I want like-minded people. But you want to, you're focused on your mind. You're focused on your interest. You're not focused on realness. And so what does realness look like? It means having friendships that are that where you don't try to wrestle each other to be like the other. You honor and cherish the differences between you. But we're not doing that. We're not honoring the differences between us. We are estranging from anybody that doesn't have the same kind of interests. And I'm part of this as well. I've been a part of this as well. It's like when I got into spirituality, it was like all I want to talk about is all the concepts. Like, who can talk about alchemy and mysticism and whatever else. I mean, there's a gazillion of different little concepts, but that's the American mind. That's the mind that just wants to gnaw on concepts, and it's completely bypassing the element of realness and getting down in the dirty and owning ourselves. And we take our traumas and we hold them up as trophies, and then have an explanation of how we're getting by what we're enduring, instead of going, hey, how can I not have trauma affect my life? And no, it's not affecting my life. Well, here's one: you don't talk about it. Once you heal it, you don't talk about it. You don't need to talk about it. So yeah, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on this element, and I'm finding here. Oh, I want to give you another example of why I kind of woke up a little sideways this morning. Was recognizing that I've been reconnecting with some family members, and they've both shared criticisms of me and my behavior over the past, and then even when they did that, I'm sitting there going, what criticisms do I have of them? Like, why is this not fair? And I was like, I realize I just don't hold on to those kind of things. But to their criticisms comes the other side. What they criticized me of was not acting in a certain way along the way. And I'm like, yeah, why? And then I thought to myself, why did I act that way? And was like, well, because the way that they communicated about this person in our family was that they had no esteem for them. They wanted nothing to do with them, and basically they were trying to forget that they even existed. And that's what I was constantly communicated to. And so why didn't I act? Why didn't I bring up this person's name? It was because one of the reasons was because the feedback I got was, you have no interest in this person. Why should I have stuck up? So it was like, that was what I needed to do this morning, is go, hey, where's your behavior off? And this is how we level out the playing field: is where are you doing this. It's like that's exactly what distorted reality does, is it wants us to believe that everything outside of us is the problem. And then we try to put it together in our minds and then hold on to a level of how much should I be angry at this person, and then not tell them about it, which was my one of my biggest criticisms of their behavior, was not sharing with me what was prickly to them. And so it was. So this morning was me now standing up for myself and going, "Hey, I'm calling this out. I want to get this bullshit out of the way. I don't want to. I don't want to carry this stuff with anyone, especially with family." It's like this is the opportunity to, if you see that you had problems with your parents, you have siblings, that if you have the ability to communicate, find a way to communicate properly, then you'll figure out, we'll all figure out together, like, oh, I need to look at this. I need to figure out this. So there's responsibility. It's so simple. If we know we're codependent, that means that we're othering. And if we have an element, or somebody's telling us, you're very narcissistic, or you always think for yourself, it's like, that's easy. That's easy to figure out. If somebody comes to me, if you think that I'm a narcissist, the easiest thing that I can do is just be curious. Curious about how you feel, and not have to have a reason for it. It's like, hey, I think you're only thinking of yourself. Okay, let me hear. I'll be curious. Tell me, what does it look like? What does your inner world look like? Okay, excellent. I acknowledge. What, how you feel about those things. And now, if somebody's not really looking, and what they really want is validation for their story, then you got that you're out of the business, because all you have to do is acknowledge. Validations, like, you can't really validate and come to conclusions in psychology. People try to say, I healed from this trauma or this trauma or this trauma. It's like, you don't know. You don't know. You can't know. Because that's not how the mind works. The minute that you step into therapy and you bring up something that happens from your past, you can re-engineer. Your mind can re-engineer, and have been re-engineering what that whole situation was all about. And what's important is not the conclusion, anyway, that you come to about your trauma. What is important is the healing. And if it is truly healing, you most likely don't have an explanation behind it. You don't have to talk about anything, because what's going to flow from it is a deeper depth. It's going to be loving kindness. It's going to be a lighter load on your spirit. So I think I flushed out my thoughts, and still engaging with this idea of the soul and reconnecting in that point of view. I am putting my mind, and my interest has been into friendship and what friendship truly is. And I have a great author, John O'Donohue. He wrote my favorite book, which is the Anamkara, which is Soul Friend. But you can also find, I'm listening to one of his audiobooks, which is just fantastic, and it really paints the picture of the depth of what friendship can look like when we stop trying to do the performative, interest-based, entertainment-based version of friendship. And anybody then has the opportunity to be friends. And I want to learn how to invite people into my world and into this type of friendship. I want to find people who want to explore and be curious about the inner state of me, and I want to explore the inner state of people, like how they feel and what's going on inside of their worlds. And this is a slow process, and that's the thing about my spirit. My spirit always wanted to go quick, and it wanted to like be like, okay, I gotta grab onto a friend and I'm going to make them into my friend. You will be my friend. And now it's like, okay, I'm feeling this slowness and this ease moving into this stage of life, but I love it because it's got me looking at relationships in a much bigger world, being clear with my truth. And my truth is simply being responsible for how I feel. And if I feel somebody's trying to manipulate the way that I feel, then I need to say something about it, set a boundary, or get out. Because that's basically our world right now, is everybody yelling and saying you all need to feel like I feel. And it doesn't seem to be getting us too far. So anyway, loving kindness to you all. I was just thinking about the funniness of, I've probably made 1,000 videos, maybe 1,500 videos along my way, and in all the different directions that I have explored. I guess maybe there's a little something in each one of them for somebody. Anyway, make it a great day. Be blessed.